The crowded subway car jerked to a halt, sending the impeccably dressed man tumbling backward. Before anyone could react, he landed directly on Jake's lap, causing both men to freeze in shock. "Don't move," Jake whispered urgently, his eyes darting to the small paper bag beside them. "My daughter's science project is right there, and if you shift too quickly, 6 weeks of her work gets destroyed." The billionaire, recognizing genuine desperation when he heard it, remained perfectly still despite the awkwardness. Neither man could have possibly known how this bizarre moment would completely transform both their lives. If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming content that reminds us how unexpected encounters can change everything. Your support helps us create more stories that touch hearts and inspire hope. Jake Matthews hadn't planned on taking the subway that evening. At 34, he typically drove his beat-up Honda wherever he needed to go, especially when it involved his 8-year-old daughter Lily's school projects. But the car had finally given up after years of patched repairs, leaving him with no choice but to navigate public transportation with Lily's delicate science experiment, a complex ecosystem in miniature that had taken weeks to perfect. The science fair was tomorrow, and Lily had poured her heart into creating a self-sustaining terrarium that demonstrated the water cycle. The project represented more than just a grade to her, it was the first major achievement she'd pursued since losing her mother to cancer 18 months ago. Jake had watched his bright, bubbly daughter retreat into herself after Sarah's death, and this project had been the first thing to reignite that spark in her eyes. "Sorry about this," the man on Jake's lap said quietly, still not moving. "I'm not usually so clumsy." "It's fine," Jake replied, though nothing about their situation felt normal. "Just need another minute until the train stabilizes." The man nodded slightly, and Jake noticed his perfectly tailored suit, the subtle scent of expensive cologne, and the platinum watch peeking from beneath his cuff. This wasn't someone who regularly rode the subway. "I'm Alexander Reed," the man offered, as if providing his name might make their awkward position less strange. Jake's eyes widened slightly. Even he recognized that name, Alexander Reed, tech innovator and founder of Reed Innovations, worth billions and regularly featured in business magazines. What was someone like him doing on a crowded subway at rush hour? "Jake Matthews," he responded automatically. "And that's my daughter's science project you nearly crushed." Alexander carefully shifted his weight once the train resumed smooth movement, rising to stand properly while examining the paper bag with genuine interest. "What kind of science project?" Jake hesitated, then carefully removed the glass terrarium, revealing Lily's creation. "It's a closed ecosystem. My daughter built it to demonstrate the water cycle for her science fair." Alexander's expression changed, a flash of something, recognition, perhaps, crossing his features. "She created this herself? How old is she?" 8, Jake said, unable to keep the pride from his voice. "She's always been interested in how things work." The train lurched again, and Alexander instinctively reached out to steady the terrarium in Jake's hands. Their fingers brushed, and for a moment, Jake felt an unexpected connection, two strangers united in protecting something fragile. "I used to make these when I was a kid," Alexander said softly, his eyes fixed on the miniature world inside the glass. "My mother thought I was wasting my time with dirt and bugs instead of focusing on more practical pursuits." Jake studied the billionaire's face, surprised by the vulnerability in his expression. Lily's mother would have loved this project. She was a botanist before. He trailed off, not wanting to burden a stranger with his grief. Alexander seemed to understand anyway. "Is it just you and your daughter now?" Jake nodded, carefully returning the terrarium to its protective bag. "For about a year and a half. We're managing." The train announced the next stop, Alexander's destination, apparently. As he prepared to exit, he reached into his pocket and handed Jake a business card. "I'd love to see how the science fair goes. My company sponsors a Young Innovators program that your daughter might be interested in." Jake accepted the card reflexively, though he couldn't imagine how their worlds could possibly intersect beyond this strange encounter. "Thanks, but we're doing okay on our own." Alexander smiled slightly. "I'm sure you are. But sometimes the most unexpected connections turn out to be exactly what we need." With that cryptic statement, he disappeared into the crowd exiting the train. Jake stared at the embossed card in his hand, wondering what had just happened. He tucked it into his pocket, focusing instead on getting Lily's project home safely. The encounter with the billionaire already fading from his mind as he contemplated the more immediate challenges of dinner, homework, and preparing Lily for tomorrow's presentation. The next morning brought chaos as usual. Lily's auburn hair, so like her mother's, refused to stay in its neat ponytail. Breakfast was a rushed affair of slightly burnt toast, and Jake nearly forgot the permission slip he'd signed the night before. But they made it to school on time, Lily clutching her precious terrarium with determined hands. "You're going to be amazing, Lillipad," Jake assured her, using the nickname that always made her smile. "Mom would be so proud of you." Lily's green eyes, another inheritance from Sarah, met his with a mixture of nervousness and excitement. "Do you think I could win, Dad?" "I think you've already won by creating something so beautiful," he answered honestly. "But yes, I think you have a real shot at first place." He watched her walk into the school gymnasium where parents would return that evening for the judging, feeling the familiar ache of wishing Sarah could see their daughter now. Jake headed to work at the construction company where he'd been employed since dropping out of college when Sarah became pregnant with Lily. The job paid the bills, mostly, but left little room for savings or extras, especially with the medical bills that had accumulated during Sarah's illness. The day passed in a blur of physical labor that left little time for thinking about billionaires or chance encounters. By the time Jake cleaned up and headed to the school for the science fair, Alexander Reed had become just a strange anecdote he might share with his brother someday. The gymnasium buzzed with excitement as students proudly displayed their projects. Jake scanned the room for Lily, finally spotting her auburn ponytail at a table near the center. Her face lit up when she saw him, and she waved enthusiastically. "Dad! Come see. The judges already came by once." Jake made his way through the crowd, noticing how professionally Lily had arranged her display. She'd created colorful diagrams explaining the water cycle, and the terrarium itself looked even more impressive under the gymnasium lights. "This looks amazing, Lillipad," he said, genuinely impressed. "How do you feel about your chances?" Lily bounced slightly on her toes. "Mrs. Hernandez said mine was one of the most sophisticated projects she's seen from a third grader." Jake was about to respond when he noticed Lily's attention shift to something, or someone, behind him. Her eyes widened, and Jake turned to find himself face to face with Alexander Reed. "Mr. Matthews," Alexander greeted him with a warm smile. "I hope you don't mind that I took you up on your invitation." Jake blinked in confusion. "I didn't." "You shared information about a science fair featuring innovative young minds," Alexander continued smoothly. "In my world, that constitutes an invitation." His eyes moved to Lily, who was staring at him with undisguised curiosity. "And you must be the scientist behind this impressive ecosystem." "I'm Lily," she said, extending her hand with surprising confidence. "Are you one of the judges?" Alexander laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his usually serious face. "No, just an interested observer. Your father and I met yesterday when I nearly destroyed your project." Recognition dawned on Lily's face. "You're the man who sat on Dad's lap on the subway. He told me about that this morning." Jake felt heat rise to his face, but Alexander merely nodded solemnly. "One of my less dignified moments, I'm afraid. But it led me here, so perhaps it was fortunate after all." Before Jake could process the billionaire's unexpected appearance, the principal approached the microphone to announce the winners. The gymnasium quieted as students and parents turned their attention to the front. "Our third-place winner is Michael Chen, for his solar-powered water filter." Applause filled the room as a beaming boy made his way to the front. Second place goes to Aiden Washington for his demonstration of magnetic levitation. More applause, and Jake felt Lily's small hand slip into his, squeezing tightly. And our first place winner, with an exceptional demonstration of ecological systems and the water cycle. Lily Matthews. For a moment, Lily seemed frozen in shock. Then she let out a small squeal of delight and hugged Jake fiercely before running to the front to accept her blue ribbon and certificate. Jake felt his eyes grow damp as he watched his daughter accept her award, wishing with all his heart that Sarah could see this moment. "She's remarkable," Alexander said quietly beside him. "You must be very proud." "More than I can say," Jake admitted, wiping discreetly at his eyes. After the ceremony, as families began to disperse, Alexander remained, examining Lily's project more closely as she enthusiastically explained each component. "The moss helps filter the water, and the condensation forms on the glass here, and then it rains back down," she explained, her earlier shyness completely gone. "It's a complete cycle, just like on Earth, but tiny." "It's brilliant," Alexander said, and Jake could tell he genuinely meant it. "You know, I built something similar when I was about your age, but yours is much more elegant." Lily beamed at the compliment. "Dad helped me get the materials, but I designed it myself." "That doesn't surprise me at all," Alexander replied. He glanced at Jake. "I wonder if I might speak with you for a moment." Jake hesitated, then nodded. "Lily, can you start packing up your project?" "I'll be right back." They stepped a few feet away, still within sight of Lily but out of earshot. "I mentioned yesterday that my company runs a Young Innovators program," Alexander began. "It's designed to identify and nurture scientific talent in elementary and middle school students. We provide mentorship, resources, and educational opportunities." Jake crossed his arms defensively. "We're not looking for charity." Alexander's expression remained neutral. "This isn't charity, Mr. Matthews. It's investment. Children like Lily represent the future of scientific innovation. Our program is highly selective, and based on what I've seen today, your daughter would be an exceptional candidate." "What exactly would this program involve?" Jake asked, his protective instincts still on high alert. "Weekly sessions with scientists and educators, materials for home experiments, field trips to research facilities, and a college scholarship fund that grows with each year of participation," Alexander explained. "We currently have 23 students enrolled across the country." Jake's mind reeled at the implications. A college scholarship would solve one of his most persistent worries about Lily's future. But still. Why us? Why Lily? There must be thousands of kids who win science fairs. Alexander was quiet for a moment, his gaze drifting to where Lily was carefully dismantling her display. "Do you believe in fate, Mr. Matthews?" The question caught Jake off guard. "Not particularly. I didn't either, until recently." Alexander's voice took on a more personal tone. "My wife and I lost our daughter to leukemia 5 years ago. Emma was 8, the same age as Lily. She loved creating terrariums and studying ecosystems. Said she wanted to be an environmental scientist when she grew up." Jake felt the defensive wall he'd built begin to crumble. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." "How could you?" Alexander shrugged slightly. "The point is, when I quite literally fell into your lap yesterday and saw that terrarium, it felt like, I don't know. A sign, perhaps. And meeting Lily today only reinforced that feeling." Jake watched his daughter, seeing her mother in every gesture, every enthusiastic explanation she gave to a passing teacher. Sarah had always believed that the universe had patterns and purposes beyond human understanding. She would have seen meaning in this strange connection. "I need to think about it," Jake finally said. "And discuss it with Lily." Alexander nodded, reaching into his pocket for another business card, this one with a personal number handwritten on the back. Take all the time you need. And please know that this isn't just about my company or even about Lily's potential. Sometimes helping others is how we heal ourselves. As Alexander said goodbye to Lily and left the gymnasium, Jake felt something shift inside him, a door opening to possibilities he hadn't allowed himself to consider since Sarah's death. He'd been so focused on survival, on keeping their small family afloat, that he'd forgotten how to dream of more. That night, after Lily had gone to bed, still buzzing with excitement from her win, Jake sat at the kitchen table with Alexander's card in his hand. The encounter that had begun with awkwardness and embarrassment on a crowded subway had somehow led to this moment of decision. Jake thought about Sarah, about how she'd always encouraged him to take chances, to trust that good things could happen even in the midst of hardship. He thought about Lily, about her brilliant mind and the future that stretched before her, a future that could be limited or expanded by the choices he made now. With a deep breath, Jake reached for his phone and dialed the number on the card. 3 years later, Jake stood in the doorway of Lily's bedroom, watching as she put the finishing touches on her latest project, a sophisticated hydroponic system that she'd designed with guidance from her mentor at Reed Innovations. At 11, Lily had blossomed into a confident young scientist whose work had already been featured in several educational journals. The Young Innovators program had transformed their lives in ways Jake could never have imagined. Lily's scholarship fund had grown substantially, and Jake himself had accepted Alexander's offer to join the Reed Foundation, helping to identify other promising young scientists from disadvantaged backgrounds. The terrarium from that first science fair still sat on Lily's windowsill, a reminder of where their journey had begun. Beside it stood a photograph of Sarah, smiling in the sunshine of a day long past, and a newer picture of Lily with Alexander and his wife Claire at the opening of the Emma Reed Memorial Science Center. "Dad?" Lily looked up from her work, her green eyes, so like her mother's, bright with purpose. "Do you think Mom would be proud of what we're doing?" Jake crossed the room and placed a gentle kiss on the top of her head. "Every single day, Lilipad. Every single day." As he helped his daughter prepare for the regional science competition where she would present her hydroponic system, Jake thought about the strange sequence of events that had led them here: a missed train, a crowded subway car, a billionaire losing his balance at precisely the right moment. Perhaps Sarah had been right about the universe and its mysterious patterns. Perhaps some connections were meant to be, arriving in our lives at exactly the moment we need them most, even if that arrival involves someone accidentally sitting on your lap. If you've made it to the end of this story, thank you for joining us on this journey of unexpected connections and second chances. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that remind us how a single moment can change everything. Share in the comments if you've ever experienced an unexpected encounter that transformed your life. We'd love to hear your stories too.